Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's Eric here from Captive Audio, and today we're going to be doing a walkthrough of Jules Tools, teaching you guys how to install it, get it open, and use it in your DAW and projects. So first off, just to go over some requirements, you do need Native Instruments Contact 6 or later to use this. There are two versions of Contact. There's the free Contact player, and then the full version of Contact. Unfortunately, this pack will not work in the free player, and that is because it is not an officially Native Instruments licensed instrument. And basically what that means is Native Instruments charges people who make these to have a license so that their pack can be quote-unquote official and show up here in the library browser, and that cost is a couple grand. So for us as a brand new company with something, our first release that we're gonna be giving out at a price, basically you name your own price, which could be free, we couldn't justify or afford paying that money to have it licensed. So because of that, there are a couple steps to get it open, but it's very easy. So we're gonna show you how to do that. So first things first, we need to get the files put in place. So if I go here to my downloads, you can see I've got the zip file, Jules Tools version 1.3. This file name may or may not be the same, but what we're gonna do to get it working is, so disregard the name of the file. As far as unzipping the zip file, you can use the built-in Mac OS unzipper, but oftentimes that can generate errors or corrupt the file. So we prefer to use the unzipper called Kika, which is free. So if you just Google Kika, it'll be the first option. You can also just go to kika.io. It is available on the App Store, but I believe they charge you there because they have to pay Apple their cut. You can get it free from this website. So recommend, if you just want guaranteed no issues, use this. So once you have Kika installed, you're going to right click on our zip file, choose open with, choose Kika. That will unzip it. Alright, so now you can see we've got the folder, and here are our files. So basically, we just need to place this folder somewhere where it's going to permanently live in our computer. Now, if you are new to Contact, if you're just going to get Contact just to use this instrument, which, thank you by the way, that's awesome if you're going to do that, but if you are, you need to basically make a home for your Contact packs. I believe the default place that Native Instruments puts it is in users and shared, and that's fine in this Native Instruments folder. But I'm a neat freak, OCD, so I have 3 drives, and I put all my plugin data on a separate drive. So for me, I have media, plugin data, Native Instruments, and here you can see these are all my Contact packs. So for me, I want to place the pack here. So let's go back to downloads. I've got Jules Tools. I'm literally just going to drag it into where I want it to live. All right, so that copied in. So now we have Jules Tools in this folder. And again, just to repeat, I'm putting it in a separate drive because this is how I organize. This is where I keep my stuff. You guys can put it anywhere. The only point you need to remember here is just remembering and knowing the path that you put it, because that's how we access it in Contact. All right, so we have it placed where I want it. So now I'm gonna reopen Contact. All right, Contact's up. By default, you have your library browser. We need to access it via the file. So you hit Files right here, and now we can see my computer. So if you remember, we had it on Media 1, Plugin Data, Native Instruments, and Jules Tools. Okay, so here we can see all the files that are in that folder. The only one we're concerned with is the one with the little keyboard, Jules Tools NKI. And we're just gonna double click it, and that loads it. Very simple. For next time when we open it, conveniently, since we already have opened it, Native Instruments remembers the path, puts it up here in your recent. So once you have it in there, provided you haven't loaded enough other packs since then to push it out, it will be in your recents list. Now, real quickly, we'll repeat that in a DAW, just to give you guys a rundown. So here we have Ableton with a fresh project. So I'm just gonna go to Contact, open it up. All right, so we're back at the library browser. Like we said before, once it's open, it puts it in the recent. So really the easiest way is just click this and now it's gonna load. But just to drill home for you guys, the way to get to it is we go to this Files tab. Well, it already defaulted there because that's where we were last, but you basically just then want to navigate to wherever you saved it. So for me, it was Media 1, plugin data, Native Instruments, and then we're looking for the Jules Tools folder, and there it is. And we want the NKI. There we go, it's loaded up. So it's really that simple as far as getting it opened and into your project. And then as far as using it in your project, you'll see on the website we have a few example songs and some other walkthrough videos to go very much in depth and actually show you guys using the instrument itself in real world examples and songs in some different styles. So we don't want to redo that here, but we will quickly just take a moment to go over the feature set of the instrument, just so you're aware of what each thing does and what you can do with it. So to start right off the bat, looking at it, you see a bunch of names. These are essentially mic channel names. So whether or not you've ever been in the studio tracking a drummer or engineering at the board with a drummer, this is kind of what you've got when you're in that situation. So each of these is like a channel on the mixer for that mic. So like kick mic, snare top, snare bottom, the 3 toms. We've got side snare top and bottom. We broke overhead mics into 2 channels just because you may want a different balance of shells to overheads. But these are essentially your stereo overheads. You can tell they're stereo because they have the 2 meters for left and right versus a mono mic channel which only has the single one. In addition to the stereo overheads, we also have a mono overhead, and then your hi-hats, close room, far room, porcelain room, which is a reverb chamber at the studio, and parallel crush, which is some more stereo processing. But you basically have control over all these channels like you yourself are at that studio with the drummer on the other side, and you can control the blends and tones however you see fit. And you have volume control over those channels. That's what these sliders are. By default, they all come at 0, and this baseline mix is the mix that was used in Dark City Agents, the Witching Hour record. That's where these tones came from. So as far as when you open it and the way everything sounds at 0, this is the quote-unquote mix from that record. But from there, you can then tweak it by raising and lowering levels of things. You know, maybe you want like your kick softer, or maybe you want less bottom snare, you really want the crack from the top. You know, maybe you want less overhead, maybe you want, you know, no overheads. But that leads into another thing, is you have mute and solo functionality. So if you want to get rid of a channel, you can mute it with the red button. If you want to hear what a single channel sounds like to isolate it while you're working on it, that is the blue button for solo. So same functionality there as on a mixer with your gains, mute and solo. In addition to that, on the snare bottom mic, we have a mode called hyper snare, which you can engage or disengage. And what hyper snare is some additional processing on the back end of this mic channel, which elongates and extends the sustain of the snare hit. A little bit like reverb, but it's a little more natural. So if you want your snare to ring out a little longer, have a little more sustain in the mix, then hyper snare is where you go for that. In addition to that, we also gave you shell tuning control of all of the shells on the kit. And that is both for from an engineering perspective, where perhaps you want to tune your kick to the key of a track, or maybe artistically you want your snare to sit a little higher than lower than we tracked it. You can do that. in the same way that you could, again, if you're in the studio with that drummer, you're engineering, you're getting your sounds, you're like, oh man, I wish that second tom was a little lower. You can do that. You can get these drums to sound however you want. But you can also use these in a creative sense, where you can mangle these sounds and use them for creative percussion. Like, for example, taking the toms and pulling them down, especially this low one, it turns into like a super beefy 808-ish kind of tone. So sky's the limit here, really. It truly is like you are at the studio with Jules Jensen, who was the drummer in his kit that we recorded for this instrument and for the record, hence the name Jules Tools. It's literally like you've got him on the other side of the glass and you have the control over his kit, tuning, the sounds, and everything. Last but not least, you got perspective flip. So the age-old debate, everybody loves to argue what's better, mixing drums for drummer perspective or crowd perspective. That no longer has to matter because you can choose whichever you want. And should you ever want to quickly return back to the original setting or the 0 setting for a control, you just want to hold Command on Mac, I think it's Control on Windows, and click. And that's going to bring the controls back to their original default state of 0. Yeah, so I think that basically covers all the features of the instrument. We're incredibly stoked with how it came out. We've been using it in a ton of different productions in many different genres, and even to ourselves, we've been pleasantly surprised at the results and how versatile it's proven to be. And we are very stoked to be able to pass that flexibility on to you guys, and we truly cannot wait to hear what you do with this in your own music. As always, if you ever want to share what you do with it with us, please do reach out to us at captiveaudio.com. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you on the next one.